Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty attorney Dan Lennington joins me to discuss. Good morning, Dan. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you. I sincerely appreciate it. I appreciate your organization's attention on this particular issue. I know that there are a lot of, a lot of plates that are spinning right now, and wanted to have you on to talk about your reaction to this, and based on the information that you have, and what you know about the previous John Doe investigations, how they are, I don't know, eerily similar, at least initially, and I guess we shall see as time passes what will happen next.
Yeah, this. I think the best way to sort of start with this is to go back in time and think about how this Dropbox issue all started. So in 2020, we had a presidential election, and there was COVID, and some people were understandably afraid to go into public, and that was our big COVID election. And one of the things that clerks suggested that they do is to crank up the absentee ballots, so people could just put their ballot in an envelope, and then they wouldn't have to go physically to a voting location, which made some sense in the pandemic. In retrospect, there was probably way too much concern over that. But that whatever was going on at that time is that cities, specifically in Democratic areas, decided to come up with this system of drop boxes. So Madison had what they called voting in the park. Milwaukee had it. Other cities had it, where people could take their absentee ballot, which was in an envelope, and then put it into a drop box somewhere in the city, and the city clerk would then have possession of that, and you would feel like you had voted. Now, there was one big problem. That was at that time illegal. There was nothing in the Wisconsin statutes that allowed for drop boxes to exist. And still, there's nothing in our state law that authorizes drop boxes to exist. But whatever the legality is, the Wisconsin Elections Commission in August of 2021 put out a memo encouraging local municipal clerks to offer drop boxes. And local municipal clerks embraced that suggestion and put up, the count I saw was 570 drop boxes across the state for the 2020 election, which was, as you'll remember, the Biden-Trump election. And many of those drop boxes were actually funded by third-party groups. So there were nonprofit companies and things that gave money to clerks, and clerks used the money for drop boxes. And after that election, we at the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty filed a lawsuit against WEC, the Wisconsin Elections Commission, and asked the Supreme Court to declare that the practice of using drop boxes was in fact illegal and not authorized under state law. And in 2022, July of 2022, the Wisconsin Supreme Court said that we were right, and that the statute about absentee ballots, which says that you may either return your absentee ballot by mail or deliver it in person to the clerk, that's what the law says, that sentence did not authorize unattended drop boxes or attended drop boxes out in the park or drop boxes on the curb or whatever shenanigans were going on all over the state. And so that was one of our big wins in 2022, and we were very proud of that. And that comported with the law. Now, fast forward to 2023, we had an election, the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Control of the courts switched from conservative to liberal, and some Democratic group called Priorities USA brought a new lawsuit and went back to the Wisconsin Supreme Court and said, hey, remember when you said that drop boxes were illegal? Well, we want you to do a little switcheroo for us and just erase that opinion and write a new, new opinion. And they did, in fact, do that. And that came out this year in July of 2024. That was called the Priorities USA case, and it overruled our case, which was called Tigan. So as of today, the Wisconsin law says the statutes, it doesn't authorize drop boxes or anything, but the Wisconsin Supreme Court has a ruling saying, yeah, drop boxes are okay. And it was sort of in this sort of time about drop boxes being illegal, or there's a court case over it, or it coming back, that Mayor Denny was elected in Wausau during this sort of period. And it's my understanding from reading his materials and some of the articles that he was very much opposed to drop boxes. And it makes a lot of sense because a drop box that clerks use is a place to put your absentee ballot, right? Your absentee ballot is in an envelope and it's signed, but an absentee ballot can go in any mailbox. You can put it in those big blue mailboxes. You can put it in your own mailbox and mail it. There's nothing that would say that like voters don't have access to transmitting their ballot somehow to the clerk, and it's so necessary that we have drop boxes because otherwise people are just going to be so confused and not know what to do. No, voters know how to get their absentee ballots back. They can just put them in the mail. That's what is actually in the law. And so having a political campaign and having a policy discussion of like, should we in the city of Wausau have drop boxes or should we not have them? It's something that you debate in public, and you elect people based on their positions. And the mayor felt very strongly about this, and that's sort of like what I would say would be the backdrop to what happened. I believe it was September 22nd in the city of Wausau.
Correct. So now, based on what you have read about the mayor's actions, do you think that the Department of Justice should have intervened as they have? Do you think it's warranted to behave in the manner that they have up until this day?
Well, let's sort of set the table for the mayor and what's going on with the mayor and the municipal clerk. So the mayor is the elected chief executive officer of the city of Wausau, entrusted with the authority to take care that the laws of the city of Wausau are faithfully executed and upheld. And he has a number of duties under the Wausau city charter that requires him to do certain things. All right, so that's number one. Then you have the municipal clerk, who is not an elected person and is an employee of the city of Wausau. And she has certain responsibilities under the city of Wausau charter, also under state law that requires her to administer elections. So we have two officials here, one elected official and one unelected official, and they have different positions on the drop boxes, right? So the clerk says, I think we should have a drop box, and she puts it out on the curb. Curiously, some curious things about the drop box. First of all, it's a drop box for utility bills, which is unusual. That's the number one thing that's weird. Number two, she puts it out on the curb, unattached to anything where you can easily just move it, which actually violates all of the state and national requirements and suggestions about how to use drop boxes. So first of all, you have a weird box that's for utility bills out on the curb in a location and in a method that it does not comport with the recommendations about how you're supposed to use drop boxes. That's on the one side of the case. And then you have the other side, you have the mayor who thinks that as a matter of policy, the city of Wausau shouldn't be doing this. And that the common council should vote on it, and maybe they should pass an ordinance or this or that. Okay, now, I'm not going to take a position and say the mayor was right or wrong, or the clerk was right or wrong. As I said, it seems, in my personal view, it seems what the clerk was doing was rather unusual and absolutely unnecessary. Actually did a little Google map of all the blue U.S. Postal Service mailboxes within 3 blocks of where she put the drop box. I think there's like 5 or 6. So, people, there's a post office right down there across the street. I think if someone needs to drop off their ballot, they can just put it in the mail. It's not rocket science.
Well,
Anyway,
I don't want to interrupt you because I know you're on a good train, but I just also want to remind our listeners that when you receive an absentee ballot in the mail, it's coming into your mailbox to begin with. They're using the United States Postal Service to deliver it to you in the first place. Do you have a problem with that? And then when you return it, the envelope is postage paid. So it seems to me that the way in which you received it is the way in which you can return it. Continue, Dan. Go ahead.
Yeah. I don't know why this is so confusing primarily to liberals who are just have this almost drop box fetish. But anyway, if I was going to put in, I would rather put my ballot in a blue USPS box rather than some box that said utility bills and was unattached to the curb on some stray corner of the city of Wausau. That sounds weird to me. But anyway, so we have this dispute. Like, we got 2 officials, they have a dispute. What usually happens in a case like this? Well, there's a lawsuit. Somebody sues somebody. The mayor goes to court and says, hey, judge, me and the clerk have this dispute. You should settle it. Should we have this drop box or not? Or the clerk says, hey, we've got this dispute. I'm going to go to WEC and ask for guidance. Or the WEC comes in and they file a lawsuit against the mayor and they say, Mayor, your position's crazy. We should go to court. Or the Attorney General of the state of Wisconsin, Josh Call, comes in and says, I am filing a lawsuit against the mayor. Hey, Mayor, you've got to leave this drop box alone because here's all the law. And then you go to a courtroom and the mayor has an attorney represented himself as the mayor in his official capacity. And then you have the Attorney General, and then the judge sorts it out. That is a civil matter. That is how you handle disputes over interpretations of law, which is what you have here. You have a dispute over how to interpret the law. But what you don't do is you don't call the cops, which is exactly what Josh Call did here, is that his DCI, which is like the FBI for the state of Wisconsin, DCI agents went to Mayor Denny's home, where his wife was and his grandchild, and searched their entire house for electronic devices. And then other agents went to the city of Wausau City Hall and searched the city hall for electronic devices. And what they said is that they were searching because there was evidence of a felony that had occurred. The felony that had occurred apparently had been the mayor moving the drop box from an unsecured location to a secured location before any voting had started and before anyone had placed any ballots in there and before the drop box had even been opened. And now somehow he is alleged by Josh Call to be a felon. That's what he thinks. He thinks that Mayor Denny is a felon.
Boy, isn't there a pattern here we're seeing at the national level? Interesting, huh?
Yes, it sounds very, very similar. Even at the local level, Josh Call has sued and charged with felonies some of President Trump's lawyers who had been taking steps to ensure that there was an adequate legal path if the election results had gotten overturned, and the alternative electors controversy. Again, using a criminal process against good lawyers rather than just taking disputes to court civilly, which is how you usually handle such things.
So, Dan, why
Yeah.
is it that, why do you speculate? And I think I know the answer, but I'd like to hear your legal opinion. Why do you speculate that Josh Call is going about it in this manner? Excuse me.
Well, we have this trend of lawfare that has been a strategy engaged upon by Democrats nationwide, Democrats that work for the U.S. Department of Justice in Washington, D.C., charging President Trump with all sorts of crimes, process crimes. We've got New York Attorney General. We've got Georgia prosecutors. We have the New York legislature changing the statute of limitations to allow a certain lawsuit or crime to be charged against President Trump. The idea is that you can weaponize the criminal justice system as a way to get back at your political rivals, and that perhaps you don't even intend to charge them with the crime. No charge has been filed against Mayor Denny, and you just have this search warrant sort of hanging out there as sort of a threat that if you don't comply, we will put you in jail. And I think that is sort of the theme that I see from the Democrats. I have not seen the Republicans do this. I hope the Republicans do not decide that they want to retaliate by starting to put Democrats in jail. Because if this is a goose and gander situation, our country is going to deteriorate very quickly with each party in each successive election resulting in political parties and their members being thrown in jail, which nobody wants, because that's not how we solve problems here. But using the arm of the criminal justice system to execute a search warrant against a grandma and her grandchild to get some iPads and iPhones to make sure that there's no evidence on there about an alleged crime in which the mayor took photos of himself doing seems absolutely ridiculous.
I just thought of something, Dan.
Outrageous.
I wonder, how kids often have electronic devices too, iPads, etc. I wonder if they seized, if that grandchild had one, if they considered seizing a grandchild's devices
we
as
know
well.
they did that. We know that John Chisholm and the Democrats did that against Scott Walker's allies, as they stole a child's iPad. I think Eric O'Keefe may have been on your show, and I think one of those targets of that John Doe investigation. Yeah, they certainly did in that case 10 years or more ago. But who knows what they took? Who knows what I've been a criminal prosecutor. I was a prosecutor for Josh Call for a short period of time. When you go in to do a search warrant, you treat it as if you're searching in any serious case, a case involving child pornography or child abuse or murder or homicide or sexual assault. So when you go do search warrants, you do them. You don't do them nice and easy and with kid gloves because you realize it's just kind of a BS charge. You do it when a judge authorizes you to search a home and seize property that is at the very heart of constitutional protections that we have in our Fourth Amendment, and actually led to was one of the causes of our Declaration of Independence was government agents going in people's homes and searching and seizing without probable cause or warrant. I mean, this is a very fundamental and scary development that we have here today.
Dan Lennington is my guest this morning on the Meg Ellefson Show. We are going to take a break and we'll resume our conversation momentarily, so stay tuned. I shall return on WSAU. Will attorney Dan Lennington is rejoining me. Our conversation is surrounding the activities of Josh Cull's Department of Justice, weaponization of that agency within our state government against small-town Wausau Mayor Doug Dinney. We're back. Remind me where we were in your remarks about, the Justice Department's actions as they pertain to Doug Dinney's actions to preserve election integrity in Wausau.
Yeah, so as I was saying, this is really a civil dispute between the mayor and the clerk and WEC and Attorney General Cull, and there's really no need to get law enforcement involved. It's no one is alleging that Mayor Dinney had any personal benefit from this. For example, the mayor of New York City, for example, has been indicted for corruption because he took airplane tickets from a Turkish ambassador or something like that. We always see public corruption cases in which mayors are actually stealing money or getting some sort of benefit because of their position. That's not what's going on here. There's no personal benefit, and so that's why it's so curious as to everything he did was in his official capacity as the mayor. That he felt he was executing the law. Now we sue public officials all the time. We sue Joe Biden, and we sue Tony Evers, and we sued the cities over their interpretations of law. We sue school boards and superintendents over doing really knuckleheaded things. But we never suggest that because we felt like someone was breaking the law. For example, when the city of Madison put out drop boxes in 2020, contrary to the law, clearly contrary to the law, we never said, "Oh, you should go throw those people in jail." No, we took them to court in a civil case, because that's what you do. You don't put people in jail. You don't threaten criminal charges. You don't search their home. That's criminal investigations. Those are reserved for specific types of crime that have intent and certain felony provisions. Now here, Josh Cull is saying that Mayor Dinney violated this provision of law that says, and I'll just read it to you. You let your listeners tell me if you think how this applies to Doug Dinney moving the drop box off the curb and into the city hall. It says that it's illegal to break or open or violate the seals of a locked ballot box containing ballots of that election. Well, he didn't do that. Or obtain unlawful possession of a ballot box with official ballots. Well, he didn't do that. There's no official ballots in this utility bill drop box. To conceal, withhold, destroy ballots or ballot boxes. Now, let's say he's hiding this somewhere. Is he concealing a ballot box? Well, a drop box is not a ballot box. There are many laws in Chapter 5 of the Wisconsin statute that tell election officials how to deal with ballot boxes. Ballot boxes have to have a certain opening that is a certain size that's no larger than is sufficient to receive a single ballot. They have to, before an election official must, in the presence of other people, open a ballot box and turn it upside. This is from the statute. Turn the boxes upside down so as to empty them of everything that may be inside and then lock them. So certainly this big metal drop box that is 5 feet tall is not the type of ballot box that you could open in the presence of the people assembled at an election, turn it upside down and empty it of everything that may be inside it, and then locked. That is the definition of a ballot box. So a drop box can't be a ballot box. A drop box is something else. So what is the other crime here is to fraudulently add or diminish the number of ballots legally deposited in a box. We didn't do that. Nobody said that. Or aid or abet any person in doing any of these acts. We didn't do that. So if it's clear from the literal photographic evidence from photos taken by Doug Denny that he couldn't have possibly done any of these things charged in this criminal search warrant, then what the heck is going on? Who's the prosecutor at the Wisconsin Department of Justice? And I know a lot of them who signed this, and we don't know. That's under seal. Now, I don't want to blame the DCI agents. They're just doing their job. I mean, our law enforcement partners throughout the state do a very important job. The DCI agents are some of the best agents in the state, although they work for Josh Call, who makes very poor decisions. They're just doing their job. And, we should support our law enforcement officers who are trying to do a very good job. But this just kind of goes to tell us we've got crime in our communities. We have illegal immigrants who are causing disturbances in our communities. We have a fentanyl epidemic in our country. I'm sure that is going on in Wausau right now. We have human trafficking epidemic. Why are we spending our very limited law enforcement resources and the men and women who put their lives on the line every day to patrol our streets and to protect us from the bad guys? Why are we sending them out to execute a criminal search warrant on some grandma's house looking for iPads and cell phones because you think somebody used a handcart to move a utility box off a street corner on a Sunday afternoon? That's what's outrageous. Is that the Democrats and the Democrats in charge of our safety and security right now in the state of Wisconsin seem less concerned about human trafficking, fentanyl overdoses, and illegal immigration than they do about whether somebody, moved a box off the side of the street. I mean, it's just absolutely outrageous to me. I hope I'm not too outraged, Meg.
Well, I certainly am. I mean, I've made it pretty clear. The other thing, Dan, that I wanted to point out is in your search of U.S. mailboxes within, did you say like a 5 mile radius of?
Oh, no, like 3 or 4 blocks.
Oh, pardon me. Well,
if you're down in Wausau, just look around. There's blue mailboxes all over the place, and there's a U.S. Postal Service station down there.
Well, there's also a mailbox right outside of City Hall.
Yes,
that's how absurd this entire situation is. I mean, in fact, those who were worshiping the ballot cheat box a few weeks ago outside of Wausau City Hall, those who were bussed up from Madison to protest outside of our City Hall, the City Hall in which my taxpayer money goes, there was a U.S. Postal Service box that some of them were leaning on during the course of that rally. I mean, the irony in that was not lost on me.
Now you want a real crime. I actually prosecuted, when I was a federal prosecutor, I prosecuted a drug dealer who was so high on meth that in broad daylight he used a crowbar to try to break into a U.S. Postal Service blue box and steal mail out of it because he was looking for checks. That guy got 5 years in prison. Okay, that's a real crime that you could prosecute. a meth head trying to break into a blue mailbox and steal U.S. mail, that's a federal crime, okay? We all know that. And that's why people don't do that. People don't go around and mess around with blue mailboxes because you're asking to be prosecuted by the federal government. I mean, those things are bolted to the ground. No one's gonna. But this thing, on the other hand, like, drop your utility bills here, and I'm just gonna put it sometime on the curb, and it's this light aluminum or whatever it's made of, and that someday I'm gonna open it up and say, hey, put your absentee ballots in here, when you could just drop it in the blue box like down the corner, is absurd. And so this is all performance. This is all performance that, we need. The way we get out the vote is that we have all these new things. I mean, Democrats just love these new things about voting. We got to do ballot harvesting. We've got to go door to door. We have to carry ballots with us, and we've got to get as many ballots. It's almost as if they're more interested in the number of ballots, and that we should have the most ballots in the boxes as possible, rather than the most eligible voters. I think I would hope that we would have the most lawful ballots cast in this election by eligible voters. But the other team is making sort of these vague movements towards illegal aliens, and maybe illegal aliens should vote. Maybe we should go door to door and hand out ballots that way, or just have a stack of ballots at the local shopping mall and have people fill them out there. We shouldn't have voter ID because that's too scary and racist. The other side is completely unhinged about elections and ballot security and the eligibility of voters. And I just hope that people realize that we need to be very, very serious about our elections, who is voting, how ballots are cast, how ballots are counted, and how the results are reported. Those are no joke. Because if we get in a situation where we've just got ballots floating all over the place and no way to have any guardrails on eligibility or qualifications, we're just a few steps away from Kim Jong-un territory, where he gets 99% of the vote, or Vladimir Putin getting 95% of the vote. That sort of situation. We have to have faith in our elections, because if we don't have faith in our elections, we're going to not have faith in our elected officials, and then we're not going to have a respect for the rule of law then. And then our society will just devolve and become like any other banana republic out there.
Dan, I got to let you go, but I wanted to note, you talk about the priorities of Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Kaul. 12 hours ago, our friends from Wisconsin Right Now reported that, let me just pull up this article, a Nicaraguan with an ICE detainer allegedly raped a 6-year-old girl in Adams County here in Wisconsin. And so how much of a priority is it for Josh Kaul to be investigating the crimes of illegals that have come into our country and into our state, as opposed to spending all of this effort and energy? And I mean, I know the details about the raid on Mayor Denny's home. 5 armed agents were at Mayor Doug Denny's home when they seized devices from a grandma while she was babysitting her grandchild. So he diverted 5 law enforcement agents to Wausau, Wisconsin, as opposed to, I don't know, making it a priority that he be protecting the citizens of Wisconsin from these illegals that are committing crimes against children in our state. It's just disgusting to me. Dan, I got to let you go. We're over time. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. I look forward to our next conversation.
Thank you very much. Have
Thanks.
a great day.
Thanks.